All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you to those who joined us in person today. This event is also being recorded, and we're happy to provide this to you on our website after this. So thank you so much for joining us today for this exciting Q&A. My name is Fiona, and I am the president of the Student Alliance for Prison Reform. And today we are joined by a special guest from the Petey Greene Program. So this program supports the academic goals of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people through high quality volunteer tutoring programs while educating volunteers on the injustice manifest in our carceral system. So our guest today is the regional manager of this program in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. She oversees academic support in several correctional facilities, community correctional centers, youth centers, and reentry programs. So we're thrilled to have her joining us today. Please give a warm welcome to Lynne Sullivan.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's always great to talk to you all about the Greene Program and sort of highlight things.
Thank
So
you.
a little bit about me. I am the regional manager of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Yes, I became a part of the Petey Greene Program almost 6 years ago, actually. And I do this work primarily because education is what changed my life. So I am a formerly incarcerated individual who was lucky enough to have the prison education program in the prison system that I was involved in. So I received my BA while I was incarcerated from Boston University, and that was a game changer for me. So for me, this is a little bit about what my role is. I get to actually bring back in education support systems for folks that are learning to grow or who wants to pursue an academic goals or careers. And it's just a highlight of it all. So a little bit about the role I play. So we sort of partnership with a lot of different roles here. So we have not just the volunteers, which are the whole part of our program. So you all make our program. Each and every one of you that volunteer for the Petey Greene Program is the Petey Greene Program, because it's you that goes in and supports the folks that are looking to gain their new goals, whether it's academic goals, high set, GED, post-secondary education, certifications. But you sit down with those people and you treat them as people, and you let them know that you're supporting them in those goals. And by doing that, that changes the way that they feel about themselves as well. But it also makes them thrive even more. And that's what I get to do. So
That's fantastic. Thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. So how have your experiences impacted your approach to prison education?
Well, my experience with education itself is what's really motivates me, because education for me it changed my pathway for myself, but not just for myself. I was actually blessed enough to actually work in the education department while I was incarcerated. So I got to see a lot of people who were spending some time in solitary confinement or maybe getting a little trouble on the grounds. But when they started getting involved in education, you're seeing the shift. People started shifting their behaviors. They started looking at themselves as students, not a number of incarceration, not just a person in a prison system, but now you are a student. So I got to see their whole viewpoints change. And they were no longer just hanging out in the yards and just playing cards, but now they were having intelligent conversations with other students and sharing ideas and viewpoints. So having that part in my life and actually being a part of those conversations myself as being a student, it was just incredible to see the difference in that. And to be able to offer that to folks today is even more important to me, because I know what it does, because I've seen what it's done to myself, but also to so many other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly enough, we at SEPR have a bunch of members who are going to be teaching career workshops later this semester, although not through the Petey Greene program. This is something that is offered by our school. So we thought this was just the most amazing fitting opportunity to have this discussion about why these programs are so important. So this question comes from one of our audience members that they submitted to us. Does each incarcerated person get to decide what they want to focus on in their education, and are there any limitations?
Oh, yeah. Well, see, that really depends on the facility that they're involved in. So you may have some facilities that have wait lists that are years long, so they won't even get into a school atmosphere. Some programs take forever to get into, while others might just be available for workshops. Maybe they won't have the chance to get in to get that GED yet, but they could do some workshops. Maybe certification programs, but that would depend on what kind of time you have. So if you want to go for an AA, then you need to make sure you're in a system that's going to offer an AA program, and you're going to have enough time to spend to actually achieve that. Same thing with the BA. So it really will depend on what facility you're going into. They do have some choices. I mean, if you want to take a GED, of course, they're going to say, yeah, go for it. We'll put you in a GED class and we'll set you up. So you do have that choices on what kind of programs you do want to take, but it's the availability that can be limited. And that's really based on what program you're involved in.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. So kind of on that note, can you discuss any subjects or skills that seem to resonate particularly well with this population that the Petey Greene program has seen?
Math is always our struggle one. We have a lot of folks that struggle with the math components. Yeah, and we understand that one. You know, it's hard to remember fractions all the time or what numbers go where. But yeah, I would say when people are working with their GED or heading towards their high set, it's that little tweak of the math that a lot of folks need a little bit of help with. And we also created a bridge program that we have. And the whole goal is you have so many folks that have had a GED, or maybe they just completed a GED or a high set, and they really want to go into post-secondary education, and they're just not really ready to actually be successful in that change. So we have the bridge program that offers the English and the math component, so that way they can really build that gap and fill it in, so that way they can be most successful when they go into post-secondary education.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on this a little bit when you mentioned that, things are always very different between facilities. So what challenges has the Petey Greene program faced while trying to bring this incredibly important resource to this population?
Well, first COVID hit. Yeah. So when COVID hit, it brought a lot of new challenges around. So not only is staffing always is a challenge, because you have to make sure that you have staff on the grounds. You have to make sure people can get escorted to their classrooms and so forth. But then also you have to have the space. So if you have too many programs going on and you have no space for us to come in, so that's another barrier that you have to face. But now also the new barrier that we face due to COVID is we've had a lot of implementations of technology. So now they're putting in tablets where you can actually learn GED programming on a tablet, but it's taken away the human component of it, which is really saddened, because that human component is, in my estimate, the most valued component that you need, because that way you can actually talk to someone, be encouraged by someone, be able to sort of figure problems out together, and build that relationship and that bonding.
Yeah, I think many of us would probably agree, especially considering, I'm sure we all have teachers and professors that have really made a huge impact on us. And I can imagine that it is the same in this environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so another audience question that we received is, how does the Petey Greene program help people seek educational opportunities after reentering? And how might this differ from programs that are in a carceral setting?
Well, in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, where we work with some of the folks that are coming home, and some of them are tapped into different programs, so they might be released to a reentry program that we have a partnership with. They might be working with one of the college, like College Unbound in Rhode Island, who actually has classes on the outside that they work with students that are coming home. It really depends, again, on these programs and where we're located for reentry programming, and they have choices on what's available to them, and we try to support folks at where they're at. So we also need a referral process. So if they're coming home and they're going through a referral and they get patched up with us, it's like, awesome. So what are you studying? So we might have somebody who's already enrolled in school and who just needed to finish his semester off. So we have folks from Benjamin Franklin, and what our volunteers do is they meet there in a study hall, and they work with the students on their work, what they're working into. So if they're already in classes, we want to make sure that they have that support system to continue those classes that they're going into. So we sort of base our volunteers on what subject matters that they're working on. So that way that they can have that strength that they need.
Yeah, definitely. Um, can you share any success story or positive impact that your program has had on an individual or a group affected by this system?
It's all positive. All of it's positive when you think about it. Well, I think it's all positive because you're building connections, you're building relationships, but you're opening possibilities and you're bringing in hope, and then people thrive. So success stories, we have one in particular that I keep laughing at because it's like a kid in a candy store. His name is David, and he has always bragged about the prison education program that he received in Concord. And he was part of the Tuppet with Tufts programming. And he's also one of the first folks who's going to be, he's enrolled in Tufts University, the formerly incarcerated person. And he brags about the Petey Greene Program. Just totally like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know how to put a comma somewhere without it. And to see somebody who just face lights up when he talks about education and the way that it has changed his life, just that makes me glow inside, where it's just like, oh, that is just so awesome. Because now these are doors that are open and possibilities, and then you get to see them actually giving back, like working in a reentry home, offering the same things that were offered to them. And I get to work with so many people that actually do that. So for me, I see positive stories so many ways because I have folks that I was incarcerated with that I see come home who are running their own organizations, being founders of organizations and giving back to their communities the same ways that they were given. When I see the folks from one of our programs that have been released and I hear stories that, they're succeeding and they're home and they're in family and they have a job, that's success. Being home with your family and raising your family and being able to work in your community and be accepted into your community. We know that there are just so many barriers that they're going to face when they're coming home. And if we can give them any bit of tools possible to help them beat down some of those barriers that are out there, then that's what we do. Education can help beat some of those barriers down.
Yeah, I think, we've discussed a lot in this club about just there's a number of barriers. There's so many different topics to cover. So anything that we can do, and anything that other programs do, I think is just really admirable work. So thank you for the work you do, if I haven't said that already. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your day-to-day role and the kind of things that you deal with and you encounter as a regional manager.
Oh my goodness. I deal with a lot of those things. First, we have very, very many emails, lots of emails. But I get to work with partnerships and try to build new ways to connect people. So that's one of the things that I do really enjoy, is going to different conferences and meeting people that are coming up with new ideas and how we can approach education. How can we bring it back in behind that wall even more? How can we reach more people? So my daily routine is making sure that I can have programs that can thrive. So I want to make sure that we also have wraparound services, and I want to expand things, and I'm always pivoting. So if, the Department of Corrections says, well, we can't come in here, well, then I'm like, all right, so how do I touch them when they come home then? So let's pivot. So if maybe I have no room at a certain prison system, then I'm saying, okay, let me try to find a new one. What do you mean you're in one of my partnerships might be short-staffed? You don't have teachers, but I have volunteers. And we have an amazing training program that we put our volunteers through. So I know they would be more than equipped to work in your facility to help make sure that education doesn't hit any speed bumps. So I get to do those conversations of saying, how do we make this sustainable? How do we reach more students inside your prison system? What can we do to make it better? And then, of course, I have my staff. How do I support you? Because my staff is supporting all of the amazing volunteers that we have. They're making sure that they're going through trainings each and every day. They want to make sure that they complete those training hours so that they really have a knowledge of what they're doing before they walk into a carceral state. And we also need to make sure they feel supported. So we're going over any post-attendance forms. How was your tutoring session that day? We want to know. We want to know if anything sort of went awry that maybe you were curious about, or something didn't feel good. Or maybe you got an idea that something could be even better, and then you add that in there. And you're telling us how your students are doing. Did they reach their goals today? What did they learn? And I get to read all these amazing things that you all put in there. And my staff is also doing the same thing. My team is what makes it all run, because they're the ones that are on the first floor saying, make sure you're there on the first day of your tutoring session. This is what time you need to be there. This is arranged, making sure your paperwork is done, making sure your clearance processes are going through. You know, making sure that we have you paired with a student that's in math and not in English, because math is your strong point. And there's this, you know, making sure you have that sort of connection. There are so many moving parts in the day-to-day world here in Petey Greene, but each and every one of those all comes to one major goal: supporting the goals of folks that are incarcerated, but also giving you all an education of what it's like in these carceral spaces, so that you can reimagine these worlds and changing things. So I get the two-prong. I get to watch everything on the inside, and I know what they're learning and what we're doing for those people to be able to meet those different journeys that they have. But also I get to watch you all grow by learning and getting a bird's eye view of a system that most people will never have. And then you all just grow and grow. So it's a win-win for me.
Yeah, this is definitely, you know, a huge endeavor that requires a lot of coordination among many different parties I can imagine. Um, so this next question, I kind of want to dive a little bit more into that real experience that is taking educational classes, programs, doing all this stuff in a prison setting. And I was wondering if you could share, based on your experience, what is it like, you know, being able to pursue a degree or pursue your GED from in a carceral setting?
Wow. Well, for me, it took me a while before I decided to do the educational journey. I spent a lot of time sort of battling where I was, you could say. So I spent time in solitary confinement, and I spent time butting the system, and it was just one friend that just had this peace around her all the time and content. And it was her education. And she'd be like, always trying to get me into it. Like, you ready yet? You tired? Come on, let's go to school. And eventually I did. And when I did, I was so overwhelmed. I had red ink all over my paper. I was like, oh, I'm never going to do this. But people didn't give up at all. And they're like, you got this. You can finish this. We got you. And I had a mentor who stood by me. That was the game changer for me. That one person came up and visited me every month telling me I could do this, even when I didn't think I could. And when I was in a classroom, it was like I wasn't that inmate, that criminal, that number that you're carried while you're in there. I was now that student, that overachiever, that one who wanted an A, the one that was really pushing hard to learn things and asking questions. And even if you had folks that were in that classroom that you didn't even get along with, now you got along because you weren't, it was a different space. It was a school space. And that's how you talked to each other. You worked on programs, you did projects together. So you built relationships that are entirely differently than what you have in just the prison system itself. But now you built these people coming together to create different projects together and working together and sharing ideas and different viewpoints and having these discussions, which was like livening up an entire world for you, because now you have conversations that are just outside the prison system. Education in its own way is sort of its own little freedom. It takes you out of that space and brings you somewhere else. And the teachers and the professors that I worked with, those people were amazing because they never once treated us any differently. They didn't say, okay, well, we'll dumb it down a little bit because we're in the prison system. No. They say, you still owe me a 20-page paper, even if you have to write it by hand and scribble out the pages when you get them wrong or change it in the middle. And you did. You would write them out, double space by hand, you know, and it was perfect because you were just treated as a student. Nothing more, nothing less. And that educational journey is what made me want to push myself even more. But the people that were there for me made me push even more. The Partakers program, they gave me Joanne. She was there with me every step of the way. And that was what made me keep pushing myself, because when I didn't believe in myself, she still believed in me. And that alone made me want to push even harder and believe in myself even more, all the way to the point until I was valedictorian in 2009.
Um, that was a very beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. That's very impactful to hear. Um, yeah, kind of related to this. So you've talked about, the experience of what these educational programs mean for people who are in a carceral space. And we'd love to hear too about how this impacts volunteers. Have there been, any volunteers that have really resonated with the program, have, decided to come work for Petey Greene? Just any experiences that you can share on that side.
Oh yeah, we've had them all. We've had them all. I love it. I love it. I think one of the best parts of my job is when I watch college students that go in and then they start tutoring for a period of time. And then at the end of the semester, we'll do a small debrief. And I'll say, so what did you gain from this? I want to know what you learned. That's my favorite question. So what did you learn from this? And the best thing that I hear, and the saddest thing, but the best thing, well, I really never thought of them much before because, society doesn't let me really think too much about them. But oh my gosh, they're people just like me. I love hearing that. Like, they're people just like me. And I just love working with them. It's like, really? Because they're human. They're just like you. And that's the best thing I can hear is when somebody opens up their mind to be like, oh my God, they're just people. Their brothers, their sisters, their their mothers, their fathers. They're just people. And that's just the biggest thing that I gain when I hear one of the volunteers say that. And the other parts are when I have them intern for us. I get a lot of summer fellows and I get interns. And they change their whole directory where it's just like, I think I want to be a teacher now. And I'll be like, well, what on? And they'll be like, I had this aha moment. Every time my student gets the aha moment, I get so happy. And I'll be like, yeah, that would be the aha moment, and that would make you feel happy. And then I've had others that want to go into law. And I tell people, if you're going into law, you want to know where you're sending people. You want to know what it feels like. Go get that bird's eye view that most people will never have about our justice systems. When you walk through those gates and you feel that door shut a little bit, it gives you an inkling of what you're doing. So when I tell folks, if you want to go into these carceral states and deal with some of these systems that we have, it's always a good idea to go check them out yourself. Feel them yourself. Know what you're working in. I have had some amazing volunteers change their courses. Some have gone into working with attorney generals and others have gone into the government. I've had some really fun calls from people saying, hey, can they get security from you? I was like, excuse me, where did they go to? So, and others they just love teaching. Others go off to advocate. So I have amazing stories because I have amazing volunteers.
Yeah, that was really beautiful what you said. I think if people really did take some time to understand this space, and I'm a proponent of, I think everyone should visit a prison, spend some time with these individuals at least once or a couple times in their life. And I'm very happy that many of our members and myself are getting a chance to do that for the first time this semester. I think it's incredibly impactful. And yes, people should know where they are sending people. So speaking of, you spoke about the transformative experience that this can be and how volunteers' lives have changed course as a result of this being involved in this program. So I'm curious, how did your life change after, getting to learn about educational programs, getting to be a part of educational programs firsthand? Like, did you ever picture working for an organization like Petey Greene?
Oh, no, I never blind. I had no idea where I was going to be. I never would have thought of this path in my life, to be honest with you. Education is what turned my entire world around. but not just the education, the people that were in my life as well. So that's the main thing, is that network of people, that those people that tell you you can do things and believe in you. And then they give you books to read and say, here, check this out. Look at this book, look at this one, all in the idea of just growing and learning more about yourself. And the more that you learn about yourself and the more that you grow, possibilities happen. For me, I just knew I enjoyed the education. I liked learning. I liked having that completion, that challenge. And I was like this overachiever, and we were all like overachievers in our classes. I swear we all wanted A's. So we would work really hard to try to get those. But I had a different world opened up to me where it was like, wow, I'm pretty damn good at this, and I liked who I was becoming. And when you start building that self-esteem and that self-worth, you'll notice a person's back will go up a little taller and their neck a little higher and shoulders back a little bit more. And they walk with more confidence and more security. And then they're empowered. And I found my education very empowering for me. So now I could buck the system in a way where I couldn't before, because now I had the words I could use and I knew how to write these letters to people I could write to. And at the same time, it opened possibilities for me that I didn't dream possible. And that one of them was actually coming home. I hadn't even thought of that as an option for me until it was just like, well, why not? You're educated. You know how to write these papers. You know what you can do. And it was like, well, maybe I can, and I did that challenge. When I came home, it was sort of ironic, but I couldn't get a job based on my degree. But I could get a job based on my skill set, which is a cosmetologist. So I got into and they told me straight off, they're like, I'm looking at your resume. It seems like you might just take off because you got a lot of counseling stuff in there. I was like, I don't know, but I need a job. And I started working in that field. And then I went back to school for drug and alcohol counseling. And then I ended up back into my master's degree for criminal justice. It's like education kept pulling me in. But it was the education that would show people that I was resilient, that I was dedicated, and I was determined, and I would complete what I needed to complete. And that made employers sort of like want to take another look. And then when the Petey Greene program opened up, it was just like sort of a no-brainer. A friend of mine actually sent me the job and said, they sent it to me, but this is for you. You need to look at this. And it was like, well, do I want to do that? And I had done a lot of lectures, and I'd go into different schools and talk to classrooms and programs about the criminal justice system. And I enjoyed doing all that. I liked educating people about the truth of the system and not what people have sort of imagined or been told, or the lies and deceit that I have in this world, but the truth about the people inside there, and wanted everyone to know that we're people inside there. And that's what makes the difference. So when I got the Petey Greene program, I took that job. And now it's sort of like a no-brainer for me, because this is what's passionate to me. Education gave me an opportunity in life that I would have never had. But also it became more than just the opportunities. It became a part of my lifestyle and a part of who I am. And it gave me the tools that I needed to be able to fight whatever pathways get in my way, whether it has a turn here or a roadblock there, or a couple more bumps in the road. I know that I can lean back on my education and all those amazing people who helped me get through all this education and through all these challenges in my life and faced all these chapters, that all of it just intertwines all together. It's all meshed into one. The people, the experiences, the education. No, I didn't think I would be here, but I'm certainly glad that this is the path that God chose for me, because I get to give back what was given to me. And it's not so much about giving back. I think everyone has the right to have an education. Everybody has that need to be able to and deserve to be able to be empowered enough to be able to make choices in their lives. If you don't give a person an education, then they don't have any choices when they come home. Education is a choice. It gives you choices. It gives you options. If you walk out of that prison system without any options, then what do you think's going to happen? We're right back to square one again, recidivism rates, back and forth, back and forth. But when you educate them, now you're giving them choices and options. And then they can wind up right where I am, or even better. I see some that have created such amazing things out here, all because they took an education and started to go with it.
Yes, yes to all of that. Um, so, you know, Petey Greene obviously is doing amazing things, and it's really amazing to hear your story of growth and learning over the course of your life. I think people can always learn. We're always growing. So I'm curious if, you know, you have any future goals for yourself or for your role. You know, are you guys looking to expand? Are you looking to diversify programs? What are your goals?
Oh, well, I finished my master's degree a couple years ago, so that was already off my plate. And my other goal was to buy a home, and I did that last year. So now my last goal is I need to get a book out there eventually. So that's one of my own personal goals. Just gotta find the time to do that one. But as an organization, yes, we are going to definitely continue to grow. We are going to keep our reach as far as we can. We're going to be into reentry a little bit more, and we're going to make sure that we can reach more states. You know, my goal is that Massachusetts isn't just Mass and Rhode Island, but we'll just change that over to New England somehow, you know. We just add some more states into there. So that way we can just keep expanding. We work a lot with the youth departments, and I think one of the goals of us working with all of our youth programs here in Massachusetts is it would really be nice to start that wraparound service for them coming home. So that way we can make sure that they really gain that closeness with having somebody that can trust when they're coming out, and continue that continuum of education. So that way they can be more successful. So we are doing a little bit pivoting a little bit in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and we do hope to continue those pivots to make sure that we can reach even more people, because people coming home need us just as much as the folks on the inside. So now we just need to find a way to meet those really desperate needs that they have to have first, which is that housing and that employment. But we also know they can't get the employment too much to be in a living wage unless we can get that educational component in there as well. So it's going to be a lot of moving parts together with a lot of amazing organizations that we can all come together as one to make these things happen.
Yes, and if you do write a book, please do share it with us. I'm sure many of us would like to read that. So many people in our organization are interested in pursuing fields of study that, you know, hopefully can create positive change in this space. We have many people in criminal justice, in law, public policy, and similar majors. So what advice would you give to college students who want to make a lasting impact on the lives of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people, whether through education or other?
Look inside yourself. The answer's inside any person who wants to go on these pathways. It's inside you, which going to work for you. You know, everybody has their own passion. You might have passion in like maybe educational passion. You might have a passion in advocacy. You know, you might decide that, oh my gosh, there's something missing and I want to create something else. Or maybe it's policy and you're like, yeah, well, I see all these little nooks and crannies in this policy. Let me start changing some of this around. You know, so there are just so many avenues that someone can take. I tell folks, go to webinars, do some educational programs, listen to the stories of the people who have experienced life. Find out what makes you tingle. What makes your heart beat a little faster? What gets you excited? For some folks, I know for me, it's when I get really upset with something, I can like move mountains. Like if I find something that just really upsets me, it's like, oh, okay, that's it. We're going to do this. And sometimes that's what moves passions as well. You know, something that you really are upset about happening and you want it changed. That might motivate you. You might have a person that has been affected by a system in a specific way. And you're like, you know what? I don't want that to affect the next one. You might take that direction. I can't tell anyone which direction to go, but I can tell you, if you're following something from your heart and something that really hits your inner passion, then there's absolutely no wrong direction in that.
Absolutely. Great words of advice. Thank you. So before we kind of jump into the Q&A section with our audience members, and I believe we have people on Zoom as well, is there anything you want to promote or plug to the people who are watching this recording or who are live in person with us?
Volunteer, sign up, be a part of the Petey Greene Program. And if it's not fitting in your schedule, find something else that does fit in your schedule. Show up for our webinars. Just learn, just keep learning and following the path of education and just making sure that it's reachable for everyone. I plug the Petey Greene Program, but there's also a lot of programs in this society and that are reaching people in so many different ways that as long as we're working all together for the ultimate goal, which is to educate and change the systems, we're all winners. It all wins. It's all good.
All right, amazing. With that, I'm going to open it up to any questions. We have a handful of people in person. We might have some people on Zoom, so I'll give it a couple of seconds while people think and or type. So in the meantime, I will ask a question that was submitted to us from an audience member. This question says, and you talked a little bit about this as well, but was there anyone that you met while incarcerated that left a lasting impact on you?
Oh, yeah. There's a few of those. So the person who got me involved in education, I call her Wiggles. Yep, that's the nickname I gave her. She's not very happy about that, but it stuck. She was the one that would constantly wait for me to come out of solitary confinement and ask if I was finished. She'd always say, "You ready to go to school yet?" And that one time I said, "Yeah, I think I am." So that was one huge lasting effect. The other one was a person who was actually running the Boston University education program as a coordinator asked if I would take over that position for them in the education department. And I remember laughing, like, why would you want me to do this? I don't even know how to turn a computer on. And they're just like, "We'll show you where the on switch is. You got this." But the one who made the most impact in my life would be Esther Lissler. And she was the cosmetology teacher. She was this little woman, maybe 4'5", soaking wet, 90 pounds. And she loved teaching her class. She loved each and every one of her students. And she thrived on just watching them grow. And she had this amazing heart that she cared about everyone. She didn't have a bad thing to say about any of them. And if anything came walking out of there that wasn't supposed to, she'd be like, "Yeah, I know, but they don't mean well." And she opened my heart up in a way that I'm always going to be grateful for. And then I have my mentor, Joanne Hemingway, who wrote a book called Forget Them Not. And she continued to come see me every month for over 10 years. And she is in my life for almost 20 years now. So, yeah, those would be the people in my life. I have a lot of people who have touched my life inside and out. Each and every one. I have a friend called Ellen, and she wrote this other book, and she opened her home to me when I first came home. Like, "Hey, come have Christmas with my family." And been one of my best friends ever. So I have so many people that have touched my life that I am just really, truly blessed.
That's amazing. I can imagine that having a support system is so important. So that's really amazing that you had those people in your life. All right. I'm going to see if anyone in the room, does anyone have questions? Yes.
Um, what other opportunities does Petey Greene provide for students that want to get involved besides volunteering? Like, are there any internships or careers that we should like look out for?
Do you want me to repeat it?
No, we do,
heard
we have summer fellows from like different universities. I usually get a summer fellow from SWARE over at Brown University, Tufts University. I've had summer fellows. I've had interns from BC who've done a complete year with us for like their practicums. So there are always opportunities for folks to get more involved. We just had the 5K run walk. I had folks all over coming together to help set that up and be a part of that program, be a part of that. And it was a huge success. So, and then we do have the bridge program that we do, and that also opens it up to where you're doing more of an instructor. So there's times where you need instructors. Sometimes they're online, sometimes they're in person. And then we couple it with volunteers that are like TAs working with them on another day. So there are different ways to be involved. We're also looking into a fellow program with us as well.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah.
I wanted to say thank you for sharing your story and for teaching us the importance and the power of education. I think it was really inspiring. I was just wondering if you needed any educational experience or like what the training looks like.
So we train, we understand you're all college students. Tutoring can be challenging sometimes, but we go through our trainings, and everything that we touch base on is we start off with a history of incarceration. We talk about how unjust our systems are. We let you know about the reentry and how education can mitigate some of those challenges and in what ways. Because we want you to know what the systems are that you're working in and the people that are in those systems, what they need as well. We also want you to know how to be able to do pedagogy and making sure you know how to break down components or how to engage a student that might not be able to be engaged. We want you to also understand some of the systems that you're going to be facing that might be a little bit challenging. So we sort of go through those and volunteer ethicalism and making sure that you're ready trauma-wise, where we want you to know that we don't want you to cause more harm. We want to make sure that we don't cause you harm. So we want to make sure that you have these tools in your tool belt as well. So we educate you as much as we can educate you. We put you through like 6 hours of trainings, and then we have all these little videos that you can watch. And then we have tutor development programs as well. So we have Emma Morrissey, who does these amazing trainings, and she puts these trainings together. So if you get stuck in a tutoring session and you say, shoot, I forgot how to do this math component thing, she might have one in math. You might have a student that just really is not engaged at all. And you're saying, I just don't know what to do. And then you might go and look at one of those trainings, and it might say, hey, this is a good way to try to interact with your student to get them a little more engaged, or you have different, different learning styles that you may want to focus a little bit more on. So we try to give you as much tools to put in your tool belt as we possibly can. And if there's ever something that we don't have, then we always say, reach out and let us know, because if I don't know it, then someone else might. We're in 7 different states. We can always reach out to one of the others and say, what had found it worked for you? And we'll pass it on.
Thank you. Awesome. Do you have another question?
Yeah, wait, just to clarify, so is the training in person or is it online? And like, is the teaching material and the curriculum already set and provided? Like, does that make
Our
sense?
trainings, yes, our trainings are online. They're live online. You have, usually there's 2 instructors that will do each training. So you'll have a Monday, like you might have the first 2 modules would be on one day, and then the next day would be the second 2 modules. And you'll interact, and then you'll have like little breakout rooms, and then you'll have discussions, and then you'll have some whiteboard stuff, and then we'll sort of interact to see what your answers might be or any questions that you might have, depending on what we're talking about. And it also has materials. And if you can't make one of those trainings that we do have online, we also have it so we have them in a classroom where you could actually do them on your own as a recording.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, do we have any more audience questions? Or I don't think I missed anything in the chat, but just in case. Yeah, any other questions? All right. Well, is there anything else? Any final words that you would like to share with us? We can end a little bit early today.
Well, I think y'all should have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And thank you for inviting me, and for these wonderful questions and just everyone's all in all interest in the Petey Greene program and being able to just care. I love it when people care, care about your fellow people because, we're all here together. This is just one big world and we just need to really learn to appreciate each other and just be grateful sometimes, Education to me is the key. It's the key in my estimate. If you can educate someone, you empower them. But not just empower them, you give them these tools that allow them to have different choices in life that they never thought they might have had. And it opens it up to a new world that they never thought they could be in. Sort of like where I am today. So, and we can't do that without any of you. So I'm always grateful for my volunteers and my staff and the people that make this all possible. And that's you all. So keep doing what you're doing because you're all the ones that are going to change this world, Just one piece at a time. That's all.
We hope so. Thank you again so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking your time to do this right before Thanksgiving break. But it has been wonderful speaking with you. And yeah, thank you to you and to everyone for coming. Yeah, that's about it. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Great job. Great job for you.
Oh, thanks. All right.